It was like over 120 plus questions and answers. We applied 30 to 40 jobs a day, 5 days a week. I look at just the base pay, not commission. I make $45,000 more than I was making at my other job.
Hey YouTube, it's the Test Lead, and today's video is an interview with Michael Brown where he discusses his QA journey. I will have the full timestamps of this video in the description box below. The purpose of this video is to give you insights about other people's QA journey to help motivate you on yours. Now, let's get into the video. So first off, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to come on this Zoom call and share your experiences about boot camps and QA in general.
No, I appreciate it. I've been following you for a long time, and it feels good to be able to not only express and share my experience with other people, because there's a lot of questions out there, but I respect you and I've been following you for a while. So this is something that I would have never turned this opportunity down.
And I appreciate it because I don't have the firsthand experiences of some of these boot camps. So getting someone who has the live experience, not just maybe like a robot with an automated review,
right?
Having a real face to say something, I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah,
I know the viewers gonna appreciate it a lot also.
Yeah, I hope so.
First off, what is your name and where are you located at?
Yep. So my name is Michael Brown. Please call me Mike throughout the rest of this interview. That's my preferred name. And I'm located in Charlotte, North Carolina. I will say when I started my journey, I was living in Maryland.
Pre-QA, what was your background career-wise?
So pre-QA, I've been fit, I'll say, for the last 15 or so years prior to QA, I've been in consumer electronics, retail sales, and management. And I'll say my QA journey more or less started when I got laid off due to the pandemic. I took a few months to kind of collect myself because I was already going through some things. But there were a few things that I knew I wanted to do. I knew I needed a change of environment. I knew I didn't want to stick in sales, even though after pandemic, I took a job in cell phone sales because I sold for everybody. Cell phone sales just because I already knew it. And you know, when you're in that space, you go to the thing that you know the most just so you can get paid, right? I needed a change, but it didn't take long for me to realize that's not where I wanted to stay. And I wanted to do something different. And I've always wanted to be in IT. The thing is, with IT, if you listen to not everybody, but IT almost feels like this illuminous space that the people who did not get, IT degrees or didn't do all these things, it's like if you don't know coding or anything like that, it almost feels like, until you do research, that it's hard to get into. When if you do research, you'll realize it'll take work, but it's not as hard as it feels.
Yeah, a lot of it is just knowing about how to get into it, taking that first step. So I mean, intimidating, but taking that first step, and then a year later you look back like, wow, I'm here.
Yeah. It's definitely so. We just started 2023. It's been a little over, I'll say close to 2 years as a whole. I needed to move from, I said, I was in Maryland. I needed to move because I have a daughter who lives in Columbia, South Carolina. So I knew I was moving to Charlotte so I can be 2 hours closer to my daughter as opposed to 8, right?
Wow.
I knew, I was making the 8-hour drive 2-3 times a year just to be with my daughter. And I have been doing that for like 12 years. And so I had just gotten to the point where it's like, all right, nothing is holding me back. And my daughter was going through some things. The pandemic was having a lot of our kids were going through stuff. Mental health was all over the place. Yeah. And my daughter had just turned 14. And I'm like, nah, I need to be there. Right. So once I realized that, I really just started doing some research. And I was like, all right, I want to be in IT. Let me look up how to get there. Let me look up what I can do. I literally just started doing Google searches on IT jobs where I don't need experience, IT jobs where I don't need a degree, IT jobs where I don't need coding. And everything came out because at this point, I'm like, IT is so broad, I just need to figure out what it is that I want to do. And so that's really kind of where that thing started. QA didn't even really come up as I was as I was typing, QA wasn't in that. Matter of fact, I just looked something up today, right before this interview, and Q on the list, the top high paying jobs that you don't need a degree in, QA was on there at number like 9 of the 10, but it wasn't there when I was looking.
Yeah, it's not as glamorous as some of the other tech professions that always get pushed a lot.
Right. I mean, everybody says the ones cybersecurity is or networking, software engineer, and I was like, yeah, those are a lot, and I don't have time.
Those are the most intimidating to get into. So you're like, oh, I don't want to do that, then I don't get into it at all, and then you just never make the change into tech.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly the time frame that it took place, but I think it may have been like YouTube or Facebook where boot camp started popping up. So initially, I'm on YouTube asking the same questions I was in Google, and then started to look at some video, this video, that video, and then you know how YouTube algorithm works. Next thing you know, everything just starts to come through. And then I ended up seeing a video for careerists. I saw one on networking, but the guy talked about how you can get into networking within like 4 to 6 months, make $100,000. He had his own course. But what I liked about his course is that he first talked about the mindset. It's like you have to change your mindset from where you were to kind of where it's going, because IT is still a lot of information and you have to learn how to learn. So I went on Udemy and found a course on learning how to learn. I got a book on story reading. I got a book called The 5-Second Rule that just helps, like, when you think about something, as opposed to laying, just count from 5 to 1 backwards and just get up and go. It's like, I spent a lot of time transitioning my mindset from where I was, because being 40 and going into a whole nother career path, like, when you was the guy at one spectrum and now you got to start off as a noob in another one, it took a while for those things to kind of come into place for me.
Well, part of it's humbling because you got to go, oh, I just had the guy in this area, but now I'm going to this brand new field, starting at the bottom again. My ego has to be right. And then I'm not a teenager anymore. I'm not the quick learner as I used to be. Not the college age. I'm older now. Exactly. I haven't tested something in years. I accumulate back to my learning phases.
Yep. And right. Unconsciously incompetent is not fun. That I don't know what I don't know is real until you start doing things. And then you're like, okay, at least I know what I don't know, but I have to get to that. I have to get to that other part.
And people get intimidated because they get older. Like, no, I'm too old to learn something new.
Yep. I went around the people that I met. If I found out they were in IT, like, I would tell them, like, I'm trying to get out of sales. I'm tired of sales. I want to get into IT. What are your suggestions? And everybody gave me every suggestion that they could. And I was appreciative of all of it, because at that point, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was just taking anything anyone was giving me. And they said, and I remember a guy told me he got laid off. I think he was in the medical field. Wow. And he got laid off, and he had money. He like went back to school or took like a year or whatever to learn what he needed to learn, and then got a job, but he was the same age I was. So it helped me realize that didn't make a difference what your age range was. The only factor is your willingness to learn and your commitment to learning it. because with every other thing of life going on, it's easy to get off track. The goal that you have or your why is big enough, you're going to find a way.
If you look for excuses or distractions, you'll find it
Absolutely.
every time.
Yeah, I found reasons to do it as opposed to reasons why not.
So what were your thoughts before signing up for the boot camp initially? So you finally said, okay, I'm joining the QA tech world.
So
I found a boot camp.
It's funny. It's funny. So I remember I was on my lunch break and I happened to see, and I think, like I said before, I think I happened to see a QA video, like how you can go, how you can make 70 to 100K, within like 6 months or something like that. 4 to 6 months was doable for me. I was like, all right, I can do 4 to 6 months. I just wasn't doing 4 years. Like, that's crazy. So I watched the video and it talked about what QA was. It talked about being a tester. And I was like, talked about being a manual tester. Let me preface. If you go to Careers website, they do like tech sales or IT sales engineer as one portion. They do automation as well. However, they look at QA as like the easiest barrier to entry into IT that's not help desk, because help desk is generally where people start and look for first because it's easy to get into. However, you're generally making less money, right, doing help desk, but it is a way to get in. So they talk about, so when I listened to it, I was like, I can do that. That's not hard. I was a beta tester for the Swipe keyboard when it was just an app. So when the Swipe keyboard was an app in the Android store, I used to sell for Verizon. We had a Verizon rep come in, and that keyboard, I was like, oh, this is dope. I can do this all day. And I remember signing up to be a beta tester. And so I tested it before it just became a part of the Android system. And now you even get on iPhones. I've been a beta tester for video games, like MMO video games. I'm a beta tester. I'm a tester for Android in itself. I'm a tester for Apple. So like I've always loved beta testing new things. I've always been a person, an IT or techie type of person, right? So I was like, well, I can do this. This doesn't seem difficult at all. And I don't need to learn coding. Cool. So first I felt I could do it. And for me, that was the kind of the first step, right? So once I decided to feel like I was going to do this, I was like, maybe this is too good to be true. So I did what any self-respecting person looking to make a change is. I Googled them, and I looked careerists up on my own, and I found that they had, at the time that I looked it up, they had about 4.3 out of 5 stars on whatever the website was. They had over 500 reviews. So I was like, all of these can't be bots. So they had over 500 reviews, and they had a review from the article, and they had a review from people. And so the second thought was, is this real? And I was like, no, I guess it seems legit. It seems legit, but I wanted to make sure I did my due diligence first.
And that's an important tip for anyone watching. Before you do pick a boot camp or anything like that, do your homework. Some may recommend you something, but still you're putting your money on the line. Before you make any payments, do your own research.
Yep. As I was doing my lookup journey, your site, your Test Lead YouTube channel popped up. And while I was working, so I mentally made the decision I was going to get started. I don't remember if maybe Careers had just popped up for me, or I don't fully remember what, because things are blurred. But I do know that your breakdowns, like your A to Z video breakdowns on terminology, the methodologies. I remember the methodologies video. A lot of what you said was great for me, just starting to get myself more familiar with what QA was. I also started noticing vloggers that's like the life of a QA engineer. And though they were at the time, like some was like 4 or 5 years old, right?
Yeah.
And some were kind of current. And I don't care about vloggers. I just want to know what you did. And if anything in that vlogger's video didn't have anything to do with QA, I wasn't paying attention to it. So again, this is how I operate. I look up and I tend to engross myself in whatever it is I'm going to do. And all of those things help me recognize and understand, nope, I can actually do that. And then it was just ready for me to make the payment decision. And so I called them. And no, I think I filled out a thing on their website to get information. I talked to one of their salespeople. I just asked questions. I asked as many questions as I could think of, because I mean, it's not $20,000, but it wasn't $100 either.
Yeah.
So I asked all the questions that I could. And then I watched that introductory video that they had one more time. I had a conversation with my family, and we went ahead and was like, you know what? We're going to do it. I figure for me, I'm like, it's like going to a trade school. That's kind of how I looked at it, right? You're spending money to go to a school in a way for a specific purpose. Now, I didn't even realize that there were others. I had seen Test Pro, but that came out once I had seen that only after I had started. I didn't think about free ways. I know the thing that made me decide to take a boot camp was because I know I needed guidance. And I remember, and it was cool. I mean, I was already in careers and stuff at that time. When you did your video on boot camps, I was like, I'm not, you know what? I'm not gonna lie. You gave me confirmation. Though I was already in the boot camp, in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, they lying. Like, it is crazy how we can self-sabotage certain situations, because I was afraid. I had the money, and when I got the money, I didn't even apply immediately. It still took me time and assurance from myself to make that jump, because you don't know if it's going to really work. They say if you follow the system, you can, in the market that we were in, if you follow the system, you should be able to get a job within 3 months. If you follow the system. When I started that, I got my job, and I got the job I have now kind of within 4 months. It had taken me some time, and I followed their system, but I got this job in the time frame that they said. 3 to 4 months by doing exactly what they said. I didn't ask no questions. I am not the expert, because that's what I will also say, is that you don't pay for college and then think you know more than the professor.
Yeah.
I didn't do that either. The
beginning of the boot camp, the middle, and ending, what was like the hardest parts?
So the first part was, I'll start with the beginning. So the beginning part, the hardest part of the beginning was learning the terminology. So I still had a job, and that job is a full 8 hours. And the classes, because they're on California time, I had to say my classes were in the evening. So what was it, like 7 o'clock for them? It's like 8 o'clock for me. And the classes are 2 hours long. So I'm at work. I wake up at 6. I'm working more or less from 8 to 5, 8 to 6 or whatever, because I'm salary. So, you finish when you finish. And then when classes start, I'm in classes for another 2 hours. Then I got to go to bed and get my life ready for the next day, right? So I'm doing all of that. So getting my mind wrapped around my schedule now, learning this new terminology. But what I will say is the thing that helped push me forward is in one of those videos, because the instructors worked for either previous or currently for companies like Apple, Intel, Like they work for a lot of the big, someone work for Google. They actually do the work, right?
Yeah.
Currently. So that was cool. But I know the second video, like I was like, I know you all are sitting here asking why, if companies would pay 60, 70, 80, 90, $100,000 a year to just test software. It's like, I don't understand why they would make this money. And he said, look at it like this. If the login button on Amazon's website doesn't work, meaning you can't log in, how much money do you think that they're losing? I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. And every company goes through that.
The world runs on software and applications and websites, right? That's everything. And I remember, you remember when Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook shut down, the world stopped.
Yeah.
Right. And I have my own, it's corny, I don't care. I have my own thing about helping people, serving people with technology. So I look at it, I said, so everything runs on software. And if me testing that software helps ensure that the people who are connected to that world can still operate, then this is me doing my part in serving people with technology. And I still feel that way. So that turned on the light bulb. So I went from, yeah, I think I can do this, to, oh my gosh, yes, no, this is me.
Connected,
So this now connects to me. I remember I met a CTO for a company that's in Maryland she mentored me. Like I will say I was able to get additional resources and help outside of careers. And yes, the whole thing is about that. But she said, she hired me on part-time just off of the strength that I told her my story. And I was like, I am looking, this is what I want to do. And I told her the work that I had already been doing. And she was like, you know what? I'm just proud of the fact that you actually have been self-teaching yourself until I did the boot camp. And I was able to get hired on part-time with her. And she was like, we're doing this just to make sure, because you might not want to do this work. You might not want to do it. I mean, everything sounds great till you do it. But it was like that. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. And I'm definitely going to do that. So first part was learning the new the new terminology. API, SQL are two things that to do manual testing, you don't need. You don't need it, but it helps to understand at least the basics. And so careers taught the basics. They really gave us more information than we really needed. But what it did was it helped essentially add to the tools and skill set that we then later put on the resume. So that was the beginning. The middle part for me really wasn't that difficult, because once I kind of got there, like it was just a thing. I would say SQL was one of the last courses that we took. But for me, API really wasn't that difficult. But unless you keep doing it, you're gonna lose it, right? And it's with anything, especially something technical like API, SQL were the only technical ones. Learning how to use Postman, learning how to write SQL queries, understand them, and understanding the different tools, like understanding Jira, and they use TestRail. So it was just those things. So it really wasn't hard. It was just for me, it was late at night. I was already tired, and trying to stay up for a 2.5 hour class wasn't fun. So, but however, they give you the course, that you have the classes every Saturday, which I will say help. Because I still am a part of careers. I'll have graduate meetings, and every Saturday, people who have gotten a job come up and tell their story, or the guy who's more or less in charge, the speaker, the main guy that you would see, he answers questions. So I'm either getting questions answered, or I'm hearing a success story. Both of those help. And so it's like, if you're struggling throughout the week, I was always looking forward to that Saturday for us to get those. And then once it was done, once I finished all my homework, we did have actual hands-on experience, writing test cases, writing bug reports, using Jira, using TestRail. Once everything was done and you more or less passed, then we transitioned over to a mentor, transition to a internship. And so we have an internship. And then internship, we take everything that we learned and put it more into practice. But it's just the core basics, right? You give requirements, understanding what you need to do. Everybody has an internship, more or less, company. And we work with that internship. And we use that internship to get the skills. And kind of once you get while you're in the internship, they also pair you with a mentor. And that mentor will take a look at your resume and more or less tailor the resume based off what you learned. Mentor also helps you through your job process. So I updated my LinkedIn profile. My mentor helped me with my resume. Once everything was done, sent it to the mentor. They told me everything was good. And then what happens is they give you more or less a document, and there's a learning video to help you with the questions and answers for the interviews. So, and that's long, and it's a lot. And so to answer the question on what's the hardest part at the end was a job hunt. So, and I remember, and again, it's kind of going back to what I remember you talked about, okay, how to do doing the resume and applying. And I remember you applied to as many jobs as possible, like you're flooding the market, right? Especially when you don't really have any experience, like you have to flood the market. And so we applied 30 to 40 jobs a day, 5 days a week. It took me 2,473 applications.
So how was the job market for you? How long did it take you actually to find your first job?
So, the job market is weird. So it was interesting. So basically I applied to everything that didn't have automation in the title. Yeah. Because automation is not what I'm doing. I didn't care what was in the description because I learned it quickly that companies, they put unicorn descriptions in their thing. They'll copy and paste from one company because they're looking for the ideal candidate. But the ideal candidate is not working in QA. First of all, if you know automation, you're not getting paid. If you know code, you're not getting paid $70,000. Like that's low for a software engineer, right? So I just applied. I stopped caring what was on the application. I got a lot of rejection emails. Matter of fact, I got a rejection email today. I applied to so many jobs, I'm still getting rejection emails. So what I recognized was that the market, because at that time we are going through transition, right? That's when people are realizing money is a little tighter, prices are going up. We're hearing about this company freezing, that company freezing, and there was just so many things in the middle. And then it seemed like so many people were being entrepreneurs and they're just, they got laid off. Like, everybody wants to be a content creator and everything else. So I just did what I was told. I didn't ask any questions, but what I recognize is that there were companies that were so far behind because there were so many people that were applying. Again, it's one of the reasons why I probably got the rejection letters today. I think it was like 2 of them. Emails today because they were backed up. Yeah. I think even the company that I work for now, I applied in August. And
when did you actually start?
November.
Wow.
I applied the end of August. The recruiter took several. The recruiter was just backed up. And so it took like 2 or 3 weeks for me to get an actual recruiter conversation. And once I got the recruiter conversation, then I started moving through the thing. And so I'll say that took probably about, once I had that conversation with her, I'm gonna say maybe 3-4 weeks, because I went through 3 interview rounds. And the last one was like, it was 2, because I had one with my director, who's my manager. And then I had the other one, I had 2 3 1-hour-long video interviews, but 2 was in the same day. So I had one where it was my manager and somebody else. That was an hour for that day. Then the very next day, or later that week, or the next week, whatever, I had 2 at the same, 2 kind of like an hour and a half behind. And so I was like, you know what, cool. But they do that for everyone, not just what I was applying for. But the document that we had for questions and answers, as well as the video that went along with that document, helped me out a lot. It was like over 120 plus questions and answers. It literally broke down kind of everything, even in the project that we worked on. Like they literally gave me all the tools to be successful. And for me, all I need to do was follow the system. If it was one thing I learned, just follow the system. But you know, applying was difficult because I'm tired and it's taking 3 hours, an hour and a half, 2 hours. You're talking about 30 jobs a day. Sometimes I would just do 15 in the morning and do 15 in the evening, just so I wasn't sitting at the computer for so long at that time. But it gave me everything I needed. Ultimately, I had how many? 5 actual interviews. And we consider an interview a non-HR conversation, like non-recruiter, non-HR conversation. So it's like you're actually talking to a manager of some type. That is an actual interview. So I had 5. So I had 5 different companies that I interviewed with, and I ended up, and I had like 2 were kind of like my last week, and then I ended up with this one.
So now that you actually have a job, boot camp's done, are you happy with your decision about making a boot camp?
Oh man, listen. What that little baby say? Listen, Linda, listen. So I work for a nonprofit, so I believe in what the company is doing. Like I can see where the work that I do on the back end, it helps the mission of what the nonprofit is doing. We use Salesforce, which is its own thing, because my internship was more or less with like a social media platform, which I know. So it's easy to test something when you already know how it works from an end user standpoint. Technically, I do know what Salesforce, how a user uses Salesforce. The great thing and the great thing about Salesforce, but the annoying thing on the back end is that you can customize Salesforce for whatever the company wants.
Yeah.
Right. So how I used it for sales isn't how we're using it on the back end per se, but it's still a CRM either way. So learning Salesforce is probably the most difficult thing for me right now, just because it's a new thing for me to learn. But I have the tools to do that. My manager said, look, if you want to learn anything, if we got to pay for the training, we'll do so. Trailhead is a very free and easy tool. Well, it's free for me. For learning Salesforce, I don't know, but I know it's free for me. I make 20. Nope. If I look at just the base pay, not commission, I make $45,000 more than I was making at my other job.
Oh snap! Oh wow! Congrats.
Yeah. And they actually offered me more than what I stated. So I told them, I gave them out, and I kind of and I use Glassdoor as an indicator. So any job that I apply, if I knew I was interviewing, I would go on Glassdoor and see and I would either see what interview questions show up for them. I would look and see what their pay is for that role. All these are things that I was taught in careers too. Just so you know. But yeah, I'd use Glassdoor as a researching tool for said company and for what the QA market is doing as a whole for 0 to 1 year, because that's my bracket, right? So I knew what the market was doing, and QA keeps going up. Every time I turn around, the pay, it keeps going up. Matter of fact, the website I looked at earlier, it said the median income is like 96. Now they're taking everything into account. I'm not at 90, but I'm not I'm not far from 90. Just leave it there. So, and I get to work from home. So I work from home. I am making money that allows me to take care of my family and still have money left over. I have unlimited PTO. I have an amazing team. Now, every job isn't like that, because I've interviewed for places where it's on site. I know people who are part of the program, and the companies that they're with aren't necessarily the greatest, or they get paid less. It's so, everyone's situation is different, but I will say, even if someone is paying, depending on what that less is, like sometimes it's just better to get into the door, work there for 6 months, get the experience, and don't change your LinkedIn. Right? It's like, don't change your LinkedIn. All right, y'all are offering me what? All right, you know what? I'm gonna take it. But I know my value and I know my worth is way more than what y'all are giving me if it's a low ball, and I'm just not going to change my LinkedIn profile. And I'm going to keep interviewing until I find something that works for me. And so that's the thing, like a lot of what I had to learn, a lot of what careers taught was mindset too. Now, they generally say 70 to 80,000 is your bare minimum. And it's like, if it's 65, maybe take it, but keep looking. Right? They say you can take it, but keep looking. But we've had people who have made 110. It's all about where it is. We had somebody who just got hired from Facebook. Wow. And I was like, weird. Facebook just let go a whole bunch of people. No, I'm sorry, Samsung. Now, someone got Facebook a while ago. That did take place, but we had somebody who just recently got hired for Samsung directly. And I used to work for Samsung from a third-party standpoint, so I know how nice that is. Yeah, I am glad I made the decision that I did, because not only does it help me take care of my family, it has put me into a world that I didn't think that I was going to be able to get into based on the illusion of what IT is. I'm now gaining enterprise experience, Salesforce experience, and nonprofit experience. And within 6 months, I'm going to be a supervisor. So it's like, this is just kind of the bare. And where I'm at is just the starting block for me. So it's like, oh man, this is great. It's like, this is great. Anybody who is looking at a boot camp, I'm going to say, do your research. Talk to the salespeople and see what's going on. But your careerist and then the test pro, those seem to be the two main ones that I see the most often. And I know the test pro, they have YouTube videos, and at least every month, they have stories of people who have graduated and gotten a job. And generally it's within, I'm generally gonna say, I've seen 3 months to 6 months ish. That Careers doesn't post those success stories on YouTube. You got to be a part of the program. But yeah, do the due diligence. It doesn't take a lot to do manual testing. All you really have to do is just understand the tools. To be honest, you can find them on Udemy, because I also took a Udemy course while I was at it just to get a different perspective. So yeah, I wasn't playing. I wasn't playing. I was taking your info. I took the Udemy course. It was like 10 hours. I took that Udemy course. I was also in careers. And so I was just like, I'm going to get what I can to get to where I need to go, because for me, I didn't have another alternative.
That's the thing, like my main push for boot camps, because all information that in boot camps you can find on your own, but you got to find it and say, okay, is this a reliable resource? Is it still relevant? So one, to give you a structured curriculum in boot camps. The second thing is the networking aspect, because you talk to your friends and people and classmates like, hey, you got a job where? Are they still hiring? Can you bring me along also?
Yep. Those things can't happen. I do know that there have been people who had been either forwarded or referred to from careers to other people who work. But what I will say is that we tend to, I told my story. I don't divulge where I work. And I'll say the type of industry I'm in, but I don't divulge where I work because I don't need people calling me all day either, saying, hey, can you do this? Because I'm gonna just give a tip for anyone who is seriously looking at QA. You have to think like an engineer, and thinking like an engineer is knowing how to be resourceful for yourself. So we have had people who ask questions that are in our material. So instead of looking through the material, you're going to ask us, you're asking questions, or you're asking Googleable questions.
Yeah.
If you're asking a question that you can find out on your own, you won't last, because no one's going to want, your first month or 2 or 3, okay, cool. But asking the same question that was in the very beginning is not going to help you, because they need people who think for themselves. And without doing research, or without even looking to find the answer, you end up becoming a liability. And I don't want those people calling me, looking me for a job, because I'm not referring them. Like, I'm just not. I think I only asked one question, and that was, hey, a recruiter said she was going to call me. She never called me back. Should I be because those happen. I've had interviews that were set up on a Saturday. I had an interview that was set up for noon on a Saturday, and I had my daughter with me that weekend, and they never showed up. And I had to push our movie date back because I had this interview, and they never showed. So I had several no-shows, or people just not called back or whatever. It's just a part of the game. But that's the reason why we flood the market like we do, because eventually the law of averages is going to play out in your favor as long as you continue to persist. And so that's what I'll say. You just have to be diligent with it, and you have to be able to just take the information and just run, and don't second guess it.
Got you. So if anyone has any questions, can they reach out to you, or should they leave a comment? Or
absolutely, from here they can reach out to me. So my email is Mike, MikeB as in Brown 6991@gmail.com. So again, that's Mike B 6991@gmail.com. Just put in there, I saw your interview from the test lead, and I will answer and help out however I can.
I'll leave it on the screen so you can also just get it straight from that. But thank you. Any last remarks, tips, advice?
This is better than help desk, because I don't have to deal with customers. And I've coming from retail, all I've had is to deal with customers. But like, it's fun. I am starting a new journey in my life, and what I have gained far outweighs what I went through to get here, if that makes sense. And so if anyone is seriously looking at getting into QA, it's simple to do if you follow the right path, because there are a lot of paths. So like, your information for free, like start, I don't know, whenever the very first video, or it's like whatever that video you did on what QA is and how to get a job. I think that you may even have a playlist for that. Go through all his playlists, and it will, if nothing else, give you the information that you need. And if you feel like you want to do a boot camp from there, or you're ready, then go ahead, because you'll get that guidance. But if nothing else, take the free information to get yourself familiar, so that you know this is what you want to do, and then look at the proper boot camp that'll fit your budget, your timeline, and everything else. That's all, and believe that it's going to happen, because it will take time, and it can be discouraging. It can be discouraging.
And that's the thing, like, even going through the process is going to be discouraging, because it's all this information being thrown at you, and like, what the hell, is like a different language. Yep. And then once you start applying for jobs, you're like, wait, I'm not guaranteed a job on the first hit.
Nah, but I mean, people pay tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars for college, and we are learning that going to college does not guarantee you anything, right? networking will get you more than college. And companies aren't even really focusing on college so much anymore. No one asked me about the school. I went to school a while ago. I didn't like, I went to school a while ago. No one asked me about that. They just want to know what happened. What did they say? Like, what have you done for me lately? Right. And so,
good job. Okay, cool.
right. So all I had to do is explain what I've done. I talk about, they help you for that interview. You have the interview practice and things like that. Like, they really get you prepared, and then have the personality to show everyone that you are a fit. And sometimes they'll say no just because you aren't a fit for them. And I can tell you, I believe that is a good thing, because if they know, oftentimes if they think you're not a fit, you're not a fit for them either. Like, they're not a fit for you, true. Right?
They're just saving you a headache.
They really are. And so I know I had one of those, and they were not the most personable people in the interview. And they said, yeah, he's teachable, he's coachable, but he stumbled on some of his questions. I end up getting sick right before the interview, but I did the interview anyway. It's like, he stumbled on the questions, so we're going to pass. But I was the best person that they had interviewed to that point. Y'all bypassed me, though I was better. You know what? That's fine. Thank you, because now I'm here.
At least they gave you feedback. I had job interviews where easy interview. 2 months later, yeah, I think you're a good fit. I'm like, exactly. Or you don't hear back at all.
Or you get that one the most. You don't hear back at all. So, I mean, they told the recruiter, and the recruiter gave me feedback. I already knew what the deal was, but I'm glad. And the thing, it's a process, but you get the support. We have a community within Careers that we all talk to. You get access to a Slack channel. Like, you get a lot of support. That is the other thing I will say. You get a lot of support.
So thank you again for everything.
No problem.
Thank you for your time. Congratulations on your journey.
Yes. Appreciate it. And keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
If I can add any input to any of your videos or anything, just let me know, because the journey is great, and I feel like more of us need to get in so that we can start representing our community.
I'm gonna keep asking for updates every so often.
Yeah. I plan. Yeah, most definitely. When I learn Salesforce better, I can definitely. Yeah, that is a thing. That is a thing. But I'm gonna go so I can go ahead and get some food. But again, sir, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. And I wish you continued success on your content creation journey and enlightening more people about this industry.
Thank you.
No problem.
Have a good one.
If you found this video helpful at all, please like, share, and subscribe. If you need help on your QA journey, check out my book, QA Must Know Vocabulary. And most importantly, don't forget to learn something new today.